So just like how the original The Crow film from the 90s is the single most 90s film you'll ever see, the remake, the 2024 The Crow film, is the single most 2024 film you'll ever see. And that is not a compliment. The Crow remake is a perfect example, in the worst way possible, of a cynical, soulless, corporate cash grab just ripping up and digging up any IP they can find, any concept, any idea, any originality, anything creative, anything interesting, and remaking it and completely forgetting everything about that product that made it what it is. The 90s Crow is such a vibe. It has so much flavor and character and personality. Like, love it or hate it, or just kind of find it whatever, you can't deny that it has this special, beautiful, unique sensibility. It is so 90s, yet somehow, because it's so fresh and unique, and it's so kind of individual, that it is kind of timeless. And people are going to be able to revisit that film forever, because there's just so much going on. It oozes charisma and charm. It's super goth and all that. Whereas this film, I am struggling to find like anything about it to even describe how it is. I could go on and on with just saying the same words over and over again. Cliche, derivative, creatively bankrupt, uninspired. Did I say derivative? It just has this really bland feeling to it. It just feels like every movie you've seen before, but you can't even really like place where you've seen it because it's not even like that memorable. Like somehow they've stolen cliches from films that aren't even memorable to begin with, but it's just a film where you're like, I've seen this movie before. I've seen a movie that feels like this, that looks like this. And so to remake The Crow, which is so individual, it's so specific, it has such a vibe, it has such a flavor about it that is so different to so many films, and then to make something just so cynical, so corporate, something that is just so bland, and it feels like it's so by committee. It's just kind of baffling. It's kind of, I mean, it's clearly very insulting to people who love The Crow. Like, this film reminds me of how I felt watching Death Note, where I was just like, oh my lord, how dare they? I'm personally offended, even though I have no personal stakes in this. I just don't have much going on with my life. It is just such a quintessential example of the creatively bankrupt remaking of great IPs, but by remaking them, they just strip it of everything that made it good in the first place. And it's just grabbing the name of a thing you love and just waving it about in your face and being like, eat it up, you stupid nerd. Don't you love it? And it's painful. We've been through this before with so many films. You'd think at a certain point they would learn and just like make a good film or make something that's at least a swing and a miss or something. Cause like, I almost respect that they weren't like, let's just do the goth thing again. Like, let's do the goth thing and just remake it fully. Let's bring Tim Burton on or something like that. Like, they didn't try and do that, but instead of kind of picking a new direction, like a new kind of like fresh flavor and personality, like give the film a character of its own, they just went like, I don't know, make him look like Jared Leto's Joker / Machine Gun Kelly, and like just shoot it in like a generic city, light it in a generic way, have some CGI blood, the action will be stock standard affair, except for one scene. I'll get right at the end, I'll get to one scene, which was actually spectacular, but too little too late. Too little too late. Honestly, I feel like the only memorable thing in the movie is Bill Skarsgård. Now don't get me wrong, not his character and the words he says and the actions he does. No. I'm talking about his physique. Oh boy, don't think I didn't notice. Bill Skarsgård is jacked. Oh my god, he's so ripped, it's crazy. He has so many shirtless scenes and I was in awe. I was like, oh my lord. That man is working out like a mad dog. Like a mad dog. He looks great. Oh, he looks really good in Boy Eats World, Boy Kills World? Boy does something to World that he probably shouldn't. I feel like he's a really great actor, great presence, great vibe, and it's just a shame he's in terrible movies. But at least he's super jacked, so I can give him credit for that. Also, please, someone in Hollywood, give Bill Skarsgård, jacked action hero Bill Skarsgård, like a role in a good movie, please? Because he's 0 for 2 this year, and I don't want him to like fade into doing movies that he's not super jacked. I would almost be impressed how bland the film was and how they've stripped something with so much personality and given it no personality. I would be impressed if I wasn't just so bored. Just like so bored. So I would usually say for this section, and I guess for the rest of the review, that it would be kind of spoilers, at least mild spoilers for the first like act and what happens in that. But at the same time, it's the basic premise. It's like the basic concept of this film is that it's a revenge film. And so you're kind of expecting something to happen where he has to go do a John Wick revenge thing. But I guess if you love Bill Skarsgård, if you for some reason want to see this terrible film, you shouldn't. Go see Blink twice. So good. But yeah, I don't know. Spoilers, I guess, but also who cares? But also it's the inciting incident. But it happens like 45 minutes into the film. It's the start of the film, halfway through the film. It's a bit annoying. So the entire first 45 minutes of this film is dedicated to the Crow, pre-Crow, falling in love with his lover, his doomed, tragic to be killed lover. Because you know it's going to be the Crow. You've seen the 90s Crow, and if you haven't, spoilers are going to ruin it. But also, it's the start of the movie. I don't know why I was halfway through. It's kind of interesting, because it's like, the whole point of the Crow is that he dies with his lover, and he's resurrected as this supernatural crow. But he's not a crow. If you haven't seen the Crow, there's just a crow hanging about that like looks at places and tells him where to go to kill the people who killed him and his girlfriend or wife or whatever. His lover, his soulmate and all that stuff. So it's like a revenge film. And so that's the whole film. And like within 3 minutes of the movie, he's the Crow. Whereas in this one, it's in theory, on paper, it might potentially be a really interesting idea to really strengthen that relationship. Like the whole film is about him avenging his lover, but we don't really spend that much time with him, or any time, I feel like, maybe. Yeah, in the original. So like, let's spend time with that. Let's develop that relationship. Like that, I get, like, it probably actually could be a really good idea if I cared about the characters and I loved their romance. Like, sure, that would be really, really good. It would be maybe interesting to see that. Is 45 minutes like an excessive amount of time to spend doing that and setting that up? Especially when like I feel like you're making this to like use the IP, so we know what the IP is, so we know that he's going to become the Crow. So we're like just waiting for the thing to happen. So like there's a certain moment where you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. They're in love. When are they going to die? So he can start the movie. And so like otherwise, who are you making this for? I guess new people, but then why call it the Crow? Because they're not going to go and be like, "Ooh, the Crow, ooh, sounds interesting." Like, no, you're stealing this IP, you're mining it for all it's worth to make us all come see this thing because we love this other thing. And so it's kind of frustrating to watch such a long romance. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention why. Because it's atrocious. And it hurts me to say this. Both actors, they're totally fine. Bill Skarsgård is a sensational actor, and he's pretty good in this, but their romance and their chemistry, it's non-existent. There's nothing there. It's just so unsexy. It's so unromantic. It's just got no heart. It's got no emotion to it. It feels so stale and flat, but then it becomes worse because it becomes really cringy and it becomes really try-hardy. They're all like, "Oh, we're so damaged. Oh, the first time I saw you, I could tell that you were brilliantly broken." And he's all like, "Yeah, I'm so damaged. Oh, I can't even handle this world unless I'm with you, babe." And it's just like, it reminded me of the Attack of the Clones romance with Padme and Anakin. It was honestly that bad. Intolerable. Awfully lovey-dovey, but try-hard, kind of we're damaged and broken souls. And it's embarrassing. Recently, I saw the movie Borderlands, and the claptrap robot that like quips and jokes the whole time. I remember thinking he was so abhorrent and so unfunny and so relentlessly unfunny that I was like, oh, he's like the new Jar Jar. But I didn't say that because I'm like, that's actually genuinely offensive to Jar Jar, because this claptrap robot from Borderlands is so much worse. And so I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to redact what I said earlier. This isn't the second worst love romance. This is the worst. Saying this reminded me of Padme and Anakin from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, the prequels of Star Wars, is offensive to those scenes. It's offensive to those characters. It's just the thing of like, we've come so far. You've got like the history of storytelling and filmmaking and script writing like that's come previous. You've got so much to like know what to do and what not to do and how to improve upon things that haven't worked in the past. And so to deliver something like this in this fashion and to spend so long, just a painfully, like, aggressively long time, like a mean amount of time. Like, when they died, I've probably never felt so happy to watch a couple who love each other get strangled with plastic bags over their faces in a scene that is, like, on paper and, like, technically, like, on screen, I suppose, is truly horrific. A truly despicable, awful thing to do to a couple. To choke them out in front of each other, they're lying on the ground, and they're just screaming as paper suffocates them and they die. And it's in front of each other, and it kind of just happens out of nowhere. It's like, bam, they're dying. I've never felt less emotionally, like horrified by such an unpleasant death on screen. I was just like, thank God, finally. Now can we please just do The Crow already? Unfortunately, what I didn't realize was when he was doing The Crow, it's going to be almost as bad. Almost as bad. Except for one scene, which unfortunately makes everything else more frustrating, because there is 5 to 10 minutes of this movie that is so much fun, and it's just like, couldn't have we just done that the whole time? Apparently not. So when we finally get to The Crow, doing a big The Crow, imagine John Wick, but really boring and lame. It's like that. Imagine every revenge film you've ever seen, but like a bad one. A bad one I can't even think of the top of my head because I've already forgotten that it exists. That. But probably worse. It's just like, I saw it like an hour ago. I don't even know what happened. He's just wandering about. He doesn't really even feel like this supernatural presence, this strange, otherworldly spirit that's come down, the Crow, and he's come down to do a big The Revenge on all these people. He's just like a guy. Like, he just feels like he's alive again, except for all the bits where he gets shot and he's like, oh, I'm healing. And like some of the effects, I guess, like technically they're pretty good, but they're just so nothing. They're so uninspired. I've seen people heal before with good CGI. Like, there's nothing inventive or clever with camera angles or, you know, interesting body horror or, like, there's just nothing to it. It's just like, he gets shot, and then he looks down, he's like, well, now I'm not shot, and it heals up. And you're like, yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that on network television. Like, ugh. And so he wanders around just like as a person, essentially, and he like talks to a bunch of people and does a bunch of things. He shoots people and big CGI blood explodes everywhere, and it's all a bit like, whatever. Also, the villain is a human who's made a deal with the devil to sacrifice humans to hell so he can survive and escape hell. And unfortunately, it is not as interesting as that sounds. Unless you don't think that sounds interesting, then it's exactly as interesting as it sounds. Apart from the fact he's super jacked, and that's awesome. Good for him, he looks incredible. The vibe, like the look, it just doesn't really work for me. I feel like the original The Crow, I've only seen the first one, so I'm only going off that like visual and that vibe and that energy. It's such a funny energy because it's like, it essentially just feels like, what if the Joker was the Batman? Like, he looks like the Joker and he kind of acts like him a bit. Like, he would give a really good Joker performance, but he's acting like the Batman with all vengeance on his mind, and he's hunting down people and he's beating them up and stuff. And it's like those two characters combined. Whereas this time, it just feels like they were like, oh, remember how he was like the Joker? Let's make him like the Joker. But unfortunately, some executive just like Googled Joker because he's not like interesting, so he doesn't know the Joker. And he found the worst and only bad Joker in Jared Leto's Joker. And he like saw an image and went, oh, I guess that's what the Joker looks like. People like this? Oh, I guess people like this. What do I know? I'm just a big executive. You're living on my super yacht or whatever. And then he's like, make him look like that. And they went, oh, like Jared Leto's Joker? Okay, I mean, you're the boss. And he's like, I am the boss. And he didn't realize that, like, and I'm saying this now, but this will stay true in time memoriam, like forever. Jared Leto's Joker is the worst, and it is the only bad Joker. But they went, well, he looked like the Joker before. Let's make him look like the Joker again. And they just didn't realize they made a mistake. And honestly, that's almost fun if it wasn't intolerably frustrating. Just infuriating beyond belief. I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to reimagine The Crow, maybe like reimagine your reimagining. Maybe. So, the film has one highlight. It has one spectacular sequence. Well, it's pretty good. It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It's a really, really fun, great scene. It goes for about 5 or 10 minutes, and it's the opera sequence. And it's just essentially Bill Skarsgård just like attacks a bunch of people at the opera. And so like the big villain guy is like, oh, I'm a big rich evil villain, so I'm watching the opera. Classic, love it. And as he's sitting there on like the microphone or like the phone or whatever, that you like see the opera going off and the opera music, and Bill Skarsgård just like walks through the entrance halls and all that stuff trying to get to him, and he kills like 40 people with a sword, a big katana thingy. I think it's a katana, who cares? A big sword, and he just cuts down everybody, and it's like watching someone play a video game in God mode, because at this point he's like proper, fully immortal, and he's just getting shot and hailed with bullets, and people are stabbing him and shooting him, and just, it's carnage, it's super gory, there's some really fun, inventive kills, but they're not like so fun and inventive, it's just like the film is so dull and boring up to that point, that it's just such an exciting sequence that comes out of nowhere. It's super awesome. Like, it's genuinely really fun. I laughed out loud a couple of times. It's super gory, really, really fun and ridiculous. And, like, often it's not fun when someone's just on God mode and you feel like they really have plot armor, especially if they are literally immortal. But I feel like this embraced that and went, no, let's just, like, go full 200 out of 10 and just, like, go crazy. And he's going to get shot 500 million times. And I loved it. But it did frustrate me just in that suddenly out of nowhere, there's this amazing scene where he's doing a big revenge and trying to get to a thing and killing a bunch of people. And it's like, what if there was an immortal, supernatural John Wick with a sword? I want to watch that movie. Why is it 5 to 10 minutes when there's 2 hours of boring, dreary, uninspired nothingness that has just so little life to it? And then suddenly there's this scene that is so inventive and fun. It's not even that inventive and fun. It's just good enough, and it's super gory, and I like that. But it's just like, make that the whole movie. Just make that the whole movie. People would love this. I mean, people will still be annoyed you made The Crow, like a remake, but people will be like, that was actually pretty gory and pretty fun. Like, it's just a relentless 90-minute carnage fest. Instead, no one's going to recommend this. In fact, The Crow is probably very, very lucky that Borderlands came out this year, because otherwise, on every single human being's worst like films of the year list, this would be number one. It might still be for some people, but Borderlands was so bad, and Borderlands didn't have an opera scene, so it is worse. So you're lucky, The Crow. You're lucky. Overall, it sucks. Don't go see it. Go watch Blink Twice. It's so good. Please, go watch Blink Twice. So good.